Just kidding, guys. We're not going to rumble, but we are going to learn to use the new NVIDIA Jetson Xavier NX. And let me tell you, this is one exciting new single board computer. And the way I would describe it is the faster, more powerful big brother to the Jetson Nano. Now, a lot of you guys have been going along on the Jetson Nano and are now ready to move up to the Jetson Xavier NX. Maybe that's how you ended up over here. Or you're just excited about learning artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep neural networks in deep learning, and are just going to go ahead and start out on this more powerful board. But what we are going to do today is we are going to jump in and have lesson number 1, which will allow you to get started on this exciting new board. Now there's going to be a lot of lessons in this. You don't learn artificial intelligence in just one 15-minute session. So I'm going to break this up into a lot of different lessons. Hopefully you'll join me for this series of lessons, and hopefully you'll have a lot of fun. If you haven't taken any of my other lessons, I will have to warn you that the prerequisite for taking these classes is you must pour yourself a nice big mug of iced coffee. Those of you who have taken my other classes know that there is no sugar allowed in the coffee. None is needed, no sweeteners, just strong black coffee poured over ice. And then you will be able to follow along with all of this great stuff that we're going to be doing. So let's see, where should we jump in and start? Some people don't like that background, so let's see if we can switch over to a little bit of a more calm background. And let's talk about what we are going to be doing today. What our goal for today is first of all, let you know what gear that I'm going to be using, because if you use the exact same gear that I'm using, makes things a little bit easier. And so I'll describe here very quickly the gear that I'm using. And then if you look in the links down in the description, you will be able to see links over to Amazon. So you can use exactly the same stuff that I'm using. Now, some of the stuff you kind of have to have, and some of the stuff I would say is just nice to have. So I'll try to go through that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go through the gear that I'm using, and then what we're going to do is I'm going to try to get this thing today in today's lesson where we get to first boot on this, and then after first boot do a couple of configurations, just make it a nice environment to work in. So that is what we're going to do today. Pretty big goal. This will be a little bit longer lesson than most of them are going to be. So you will need the most excellent NVIDIA Jetson Xavier NX board, which I show here. And what we will be doing back behind me, I will be retiring, at least out of the camera view, the Jetson Nano, and I will be putting in its place the kind of harder than I thought to get that positioned in the camera view nicely. Okay, that's pretty good. We will be putting the Jetson Xavier NX over there. You'll have a live shot of that as we're bringing it up and getting it working. Okay, so you'll need that. The next thing that you will need is a good SD card. The SD card that I am using is the Samsung 128 gigabyte EVO, and that is a green screen failure. Okay, it's green, so you're not going to be able to see it very well, but it is the Samsung 128 gigabyte EVO Select. Okay, link down below. There are smaller cards and there are cheaper cards, but what I have found is some of those cheaper cards that I've really gotten in trouble with, and they've ended up corrupted. And it does take a little bit of effort to get this thing flashed and configured the way you want it. And so this is one of those cases where I would go ahead and spend the money on a really good SD card. And I like a big one because I'm going to be doing a lot of work, a lot of programs, and so enough space to keep things busy. You'll need some sort of adapter. You've got to be able, if you're going to flash this thing, you've got to be able to plug it into your computer, but certainly you would have some sort of card adapter. This is a little one that I have that will plug into the USB. But if you're here taking this class, you probably have some way to plug this into your computer, so we're not going to worry too much about that. Now, this will be what I will say is optional, but what I think is really cool is The Jetson Xavier has a slot in the back where you can put a big solid state drive. And so I went ahead and I got the Western Digital WD Black, a 250 gigabyte drive. And that way, the reason I like having that back there is you still have to boot off the SD card. So even if you get the solid state drive, as of the time that I'm making this video, you can't just completely boot off of this without at least having the SD card in there. So you will still need the SD card. This you have to have. This is optional. I like having this because as I program, it just makes it a lot easier to back things up. And you know how we're all kind of a little diligent about not keeping things backed up. But with that hard drive sitting there, it's very easy to keep your work backed up. And so I do, in fact, like that a whole lot. So we will put this back over here. Okay, that's a pretty good view. All right. We'll put that back over there. So you're going to need your SD card. The next thing you're going to need is a camera. Now, I have found that this works very well with most all Logitech webcams. So if you have one of these Logitech webcams, it will plug right into the Jetson Xavier NX and you will have no problems. But it will also run on the Raspberry Pi 8 megapixel camera. This is the version 2 camera. Make note that as of the time that I'm making this video, the version 1 camera does not work. So you will need the version 2 camera, which I can show over here. And there you go, the version 2 camera. What you also see is I have a nice little plastic case that kind of helps you do camera management. So as we're going through these lessons, you don't just have the camera dangling, you've got it kind of sitting in something. I've got a link to the camera and I have a link to the little case that I'm using. Case is optional. You can use tape or putty, or you can use whatever you want, but it's just something to give the camera a place to rest. Another nice thing that you might want to think about, the cable, the camera cable that comes with the camera is a little bit short. I like to order and have on hand, if I can get this, these longer cables. And so I think I've got some cables, they're $5 or $6 that are 2 feet long, and that really makes it nice. Okay, so what are the have-to-haves? I would say the have-to-have is you've got to have the board and you've got to have the SD card. All these other things that I'm telling you are kind of optional. Well, you do have to have some sort of camera. Now, as I go through these lessons, I will be doing the lessons for both. It's just one line of code will be different depending on whether you are using the Raspberry Pi camera or the Logitech camera. And so whichever one you have, you will be able to follow these lessons because I will do the lessons showing examples for both types of cameras. I'm really excited about both of them. If you had an ability, like if you had an old Logitech camera laying around, it might be worth buying the Raspberry Pi camera and then you would have both of them. Okay, so have to have is the board, have to have is the card. You gotta sort of have to have at least one camera, but the longer camera cable is optional and the solid state drive is optional. Another optional thing that I really like though is this Top Mate wireless keyboard and mouse. And the reason I recommend this one is because I know that it works on the Jetson Xavier NX. Sometimes with these bleeding edge technology boards, not everything is going to have a driver, so it's sort of nice to use one that you know is going to work. This one I can tell you will work on it, or you can just use a USB keyboard and a USB mouse that you might already have. The only downside to that is you have 4 USB slots and you sort of start chewing those things up pretty fast. So I like using the wireless, and that way with one little dongle I get both my keyboard and my mouse, hence conserving my USB ports. Okay, so let's see, what other things would we need here? that's pretty much the stuff to get you started. Now later on we're going to be connecting servos to this thing, and we're going to be doing a lot of other stuff. But to really get going and to really start learning this stuff, that is what you are going to need. And so let's see if we can show a little better view of this, so as it comes time to start putting the thing together, you will be able to see it suitably. That looks pretty good. And now what we're going to do is, the next thing is, remember, our goal is to get this thing to first boot and to get it sort of configured. And so what our goal now is to flash the operating system on the card. And so the first thing that you are going to need to do in order to do that is you are going to need to format it. And listen carefully, you cannot format this using your Windows formatter. And I'm showing this for Windows 10, doing this all on Windows 10. You could do it on the Mac, and you could kind of follow along. It'd be very similar, but you Mac people are going to kind of have to figure out the Mac version of this based on what I'm showing you. But if you're on a Windows machine, you cannot format your card using the window formatter. You have to use something called SD card formatter. So go to Google, search on SD card formatter. When you click enter, you will see the first selection here is SD card formatter, SD association. Click on that. And then you will come down on that page, and I'm going to get out of your way. I'm sorry guys, so you can see better. There we go. Okay, you come down, and then you see they have a version for Windows and a version for Mac. Well, I will be selecting the Windows version. If you're on a Mac, you guessed it, select the Mac version. You will now sign over your firstborn child, and you will give them the right to do anything that they would ever want to do to you, I am sure, and all of this sort of stuff. But we will risk it, and we will go ahead and say accept. Okay, and now if you look down here in the lower left, let me make sure you can see that. I need to move this over a little bit there. Okay, and I need to move this back. I'll do a little Windows management here. Okay, what you can see there in the lower left is you can see that it is downloading. And in fact, it is now downloaded. And now what I'm going to do is, that is a zip folder. Okay, so I'm going to drag and drop that zip folder to my desktop. Okay, I'm going to drag and drop the zip folder to my desktop. I'm going to open the zip folder. Okay, and then how do you want to open this? In File Explorer. Okay, let's hope this thing opens up. Okay, it opened up. And now what you can see inside of it is, inside of it you have the real folder. Okay, inside of there you have the real folder. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop this. I have another folder on my desktop that I just call the Jetson Xavier NX, and I am going to drop the SD card formatter folder into my Jetson Xavier folder. Does that make sense? And so now this one is unzipped. All right, so I'm going to open that, and then I've got the SD card formatter set up, exe. I'm going to run that, and it will take a second preparing to install. Okay, here is the wizard. We will go next. I am just going to say like that, modify, okay, next. You've seen these things, and then just install. Okay, this will go pretty fast, and we are finished. So now we should, if we come down to our Windows search button, if I type in SD, you can see that I now have the SD formatter. I can pop that thing open, and there it is. It is ready to go. So we are going to go ahead now and format this card. So just want to make sure the thing is, don't try to run the format setup program from inside the zip folder. You've got to take it out of the zip folder and put it somewhere else. I put it on a folder in my desktop called Jetson Xavier because I'm going to kind of put all of the programs in there that I'm going to be using. All right, but now I'm going to plug the SD card into my little adapter. I am going to plug it into the Windows machine, and it says, do you want to format this disk? One of the things you might find that you start getting a lot of Windows errors or a lot of Windows pop-ups, just ignore them. You don't format it over on the Windows thing. You come back to your SD formatter. Okay, you give it a second. Mine has gotten confused because it's like Windows sees that you're plugging in a card that it doesn't recognize, and then it just kind of has a fit because it wants to be in charge of everything. So it is popping up all types of USB ports trying to find something that will turn that thing on. But I will give it a second, and it says not responding because Windows is having a fit over it. The way I actually do this, I have a machine that's set up on Unix or on Linux, and that makes life a whole lot easier. Okay, and this is still waiting, so we'll give it a second here. Luckily, you don't have to do this very often. Okay, this looks like it is ready to go, and it has found, let's see, it has found drive D for me, which is 119 gigabytes, so that looks like the right one. You want to make sure that you don't format your hard drive on your computer, okay, so you don't want to like see 100 terabyte. I just have one USB device in, and it's the 128 gig, and so that would be this one pretty safely. And then all you've got to do is just say format, and this should go pretty quickly. Okay, data may be retrieved. Well, that's okay. I don't want to retrieve the data. Do not remove during formatting. Are you sure you want to format? Yes. Okay, and this actually goes pretty quickly once we get going. But that is really annoying. Do you guys have that problem too, that if you put a card into a Windows machine that isn't formatted by Windows, it just goes absolutely crazy? Okay, let's see. This is saying it's complete, so I'll say OK, and I will say exit. And then I'm going to try to cancel all of these format disk errors that I got from Windows. Okay, there, got rid of all those. So now we have a formatted SD card. That is good. The next thing that we are going to want to do is download a program called Balena Etcher. And so I need you to go back to Google, and I need you to search on Balena, B-A-L-E-N-A, Etcher, E-T-C-H-E-R. And then the first result for me is Balena Etcher Home. So I will go ahead and select that. And then here it pops up, and it says for me, download for Windows. Okay, so I guess it sees what machine I has and guess the right one. You would download it for Mac or for Linux if you were going to do that. And like I say, man, the way I really do this, I have a Linux machine and I have the Etcher on Linux, and that just goes a lot easier. But I know that most of you guys are Windows guys, so I didn't want to put you through that. So we are now going to download for Windows right here. And then as I look over here, the download has begun. And it looks like that's going to just take a minute or two to download. So we'll just sit here and kind of chat as it downloads, because if I'm having to wait on it download, you are probably having to wait for it to download too. So you guys leave me a comment down below, or if you're part of the Premiere over in the chat box, how many of you guys are playing along with the Jetson Nano, okay, with my other series, and how many of you guys are really thinking about upgrading to the Jetson Xavier NX? I'll tell you, I love the Jetson Nano, and I'm still doing a lot of work on the Jetson Nano, but man, once I booted up this Jetson Xavier NX and saw how fast it was, I knew I wanted to start playing around with it, because what it allows you to do is you're doing the machine learning, you can run way faster, and if you're doing video type application, that means more frames per second, or if you're doing machine learning or things like object detection, you can operate with much bigger frames, much higher frame rates, and you can find smaller things in the pictures. And so it really, really is pretty cool, and I am really enjoying it. Okay, this is looking pretty good here. We're almost there, and it looks like I'm going to open my folder up for the stuff that we are doing here. So again, this is my Jetson Xavier folder, and I'm going to drag and drop this exe file over there. I don't think that you have to do much to get this going, but I'm going to drag this over into my folder so it's not in downloads. Did I get it? Yeah, there it is. And then we'll click on that. Okay, we're going to have to do a little setup here. Again, agreeing to give our firstborn children away. And this thing is installing. Goes pretty easy. Wow, that was fast. Okay, this has been relatively painless so far. Okay, I'll close that window. And now if I go down to my Windows search button and I type in Balena, B-A-L, there it pops up. And so I can open up my Balena etcher. And let's just make sure it opens up. And there it is, and it looks like it's ready to go. Now it's asking us to select a file for us to flash. I must have clicked it twice. Okay. It's asking for us to select a file to flash, so we've got to go get it. We've got to go get the image. We will search on Jetpack for Jetson Xavier NX. Jetpack, one word, for Jetson Xavier NX. We will hit enter, and then you see the first thing that comes up for me is Jetpack SDK NVIDIA Developer. We will go there. And then this has got it for the different boards that NVIDIA makes. And so we've got Jetpack 4.4 Developer Preview. We've got Jetpack 4.3. We have Jetson Nano Developer Kit. And here's what we want: Jetson Xavier NX Developer Kit. So we are going to download the image. And before I do that, I'm going to close that so we can see it come up. So we're going to download the SD card for the Jetson Xavier NX Developer Kit, and this should be Jetpack 4.4. Oh, it's wanting me to log in. Okay, if you don't have an account, go ahead and create one, but I should be able to just log in. Okay, here we go. You can now continue to download the file, so I will click there. And it looks like it's downloading. Okay. All right, guys, this looks like it's going to take about 30 minutes, and so I'll pause and we'll rejoin you when this file is downloaded. I will talk to you guys in just a sec. And we are back, and hopefully you had as much luck as I did in getting this thing downloaded. This again is a zip folder. You will leave it in the zip folder this time. Just grab your zip folder, and I am going to move it again over to my Jetson Xavier NX folder, so I have everything together. Takes a second for that to copy. Should go pretty smoothly. It's a pretty big file, so it'll take a second to copy. But the Balena etcher can actually take a zip folder, so you don't have to take anything out. All you got to do is we're just going to point the Balena etcher towards the zip folder, and then everything should work at that point. So while that is going, I'm going to go ahead and call up Balena etcher again. And so you can see Balena etcher, and we'll fire that thing up in anticipation of the soon to be completed copy. Okay, here it is. We will wait for the copy to be completely finished before we proceed. Okay, so here we go with Bellina Etcher. And if you guys are following along with me on the Jetson Nano, this is very familiar stuff to you, right? This should be easy stuff. Let's see here. Okay, there it goes. For some reason, this thing is one of those that is a hard window to move, but we will forge ahead. Okay, so the first thing that it wants is we're going to flash from a file. So we're going to have to select the file, so we'll click Flash from File. And then it comes up with, it goes to Downloads, but I am not going to go to Downloads. I am going to go to Desktop, and I'm going to go to my Jetson Xavier NX folder. And then you can see there the NVIDIA Jetson NX SD card image 32.4.2 zip. All you got to do is just point at that and click. Again, you don't have to go into the folder, just right there. It can deal with zipped files. Now we select the SD card, and I only have one SD card in the computer, and so it's very easy. Make sure that you're flashing it to the right one. Safest thing is to only have one in, and that is my Transcend 128 gigabyte card. I click on that, and then I say continue. And now we are ready to flash. Are you sure? Yes, I am sure. Okay, and then you probably got something that popped up where it was asking for permissions to do this thing. And so let's just take a second here and make sure that the thing starts flashing. And then if it does, we'll pause. All right, I will come back after this thing is done, but it's going to do the flash and then it's going to do a verification. And somewhere along in the middle of this, Windows might be throwing you errors again, or throwing you little boxes that says you need to format the disk, format the disk, format the disk. Just ignore all of that. It'll work. Just ignore it and get this thing flashed, and then we'll take it out, and then Windows will shut up. Okay, I will be back in just a second. And I do hope you were as successful as I was in flashing the card, so we can take it out of the Windows PC. And I have it here. And so now what we will need to do is we will need to go ahead, and I'm going to kill that. We need to go ahead and put it in the Xavier board. And what I need to show you is I need to show you where it goes. And so it's the side where the fan is. Okay, it's kind of the side opposite of the USB ports, and it goes in kind of upside down, that is with the little contacts up, and then it slides in like that back there, contact side up, and it's one of those where you have to press in and it kind of snaps. So we have that in. I think next up I'm going to go ahead and move over here to a different view, a slightly different view. Let's see. Okay, I think that you can see what I'm doing a little bit better there. And I will try to be very mindful that you're able to see what I do. The next thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to put our camera in. And if you have a webcam like I have, all you've got to do is just take the USB and plug that in. Okay. And if you have the Raspberry Pi camera, you want to kind of stay grounded with these Raspberry Pi cameras, because I don't know if they are listed as static sensitive, but I have convinced myself before that I've blown these things out. So you want to use, you want to ground yourself as you're handling these, or be very careful with them. And what you can see is that there's two slots. The slot on the right is cam 0, and this is cam 1. A lot of the default programs default to cam 0, and so if you're just using one, your life is a little easier if you use the cam 0 slot. Let me warn you, you've got to pop this little connector up. You just pop it up on the right and pop it up on the left and get it popped up on both sides. Be very careful, because that's just a little piece of plastic, and if you do that too hard and break it, I don't know a simple way to fix that. And this is a very expensive board to end up messing up something like that. Let me see if I can get you a little better focus. Okay, that looks a lot better. Now, on this camera, the cable has blue on one side on the camera. And again, I'm going to try to get you a good focus here. For some reason, it doesn't like focusing on the camera. On the camera, the blue stripe goes on the back. If you have to connect the cable to the camera, the blue stripe goes on the back, the side opposite the lens. And then, as we plug it in here, the blue stripe faces towards you. Okay, do you see how it faces towards the outside? It faces towards you. And now you want to get that all the way down in there, and you don't want it cocked to the left or cocked to the right. You want it all the way in. Okay, and now mash down on both sides until you get a nice firm click. A click on the left side and the right side. Okay, that's in there. And then, like I say, I went ahead and I got the nice little stand for the camera so that we can have the camera stand up as we are doing these lessons. So I have shown you how to hook the USB camera up. I've shown you how to hook up the Raspberry Pi camera. Now we will need to just begin to put things in. This is the dongle for the keyboard, the wireless keyboard and mouse. I'm going to go ahead and put that in. If you are using separate keyboard and mouse, you can just plug those in. You can just plug those in directly. And so it looks like we've got that stuff set up. All right, we have the Raspberry Pi camera in. We have the keyboard dongle in. We have the webcam plugged in. We are now going to plug in the HDMI cable. Like that. And then we're going to go ahead and switch to a different view. That looks like a pretty nice one. And now we have the power supply for the Xavier NX. And remember, it is different than the Jetson Nano. This is a specific to the Xavier NX. You should have gotten one with your package, I believe. And now we are going to hold our breath and we are going to plug it in. Oh, I hope this thing boots. I really hope this boots. Boot. Yes! Okay, we got the happy little NVIDIA logo. And hopefully now we'll start seeing some Linux stuff happening. Yes, it looks like the Linux stuff is starting to happen. This thing is coming to life, ladies and gentlemen. It is coming to life, and that makes me very happy. Now, when it comes to life, we're going to have to do a couple of things to configure Ubuntu, which is the Linux system that we are using. And then I'll just kind of go through it with you. I'll just show you some configurations that I have found useful. I will show you some configurations that I have found useful. Okay, so again, what is this, like the 5th license agreement that we have had to do? And nice thing is I see that my mouse has come to life. So that little dongle did work. So I will accept the terms of the license. I will continue. I will be speaking in English today. Okay, English again. Okay, now here it sees your Wi-Fi networks. If you want to use a wired Ethernet connection, all you've got to do is just plug your wired Ethernet connection in. But you can go ahead here and you can set up a Wi-Fi. And I like to go ahead and do it now, so that I have that taken care of and I don't have to hunt through the menus to figure out where that little thing is kept. Okay, it looks like that is trying to connect. Okay, let's see if we can continue. I am in the central time zone, so I'll fix that. And then I'm going to use my initials for, you can use yours, whatever. I'm going to call this computer name the Xavier, and then I'm going to be PJM. You need to be someone else. I'm the only PJM. Now let's give it a good password. Okay, I like to log in automatically because I'm here by myself and no one is gonna be messing with my stuff, and so I am going to just sit here and not require it to log in. Also, as I'm doing stuff for videos, it's easier if I don't have to keep stopping and putting my password in. This is just talking about the size. We don't need to do anything with that, so we will say continue. Hopefully we're going to see some good stuff happening here. Doesn't take really very long to get this, but like I said, when I get this thing booted, I'm going to go through a few configuration things with you because there's just some stuff that I like to do that I think makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot easier to use, and so I will be showing you some of that stuff. Seems like we are, it's thinking. Okay, here it goes. System configuration. I will say that the first time that I used Jetpack, it was Jetpack 4.2 on the Jetson Nano, and I had some issues that it didn't always do a real clean install, but on this Jetson Xavier, I've had a lot of luck with getting real clean installs. Now, of course, you know, I risk it saying that, you know, to jinx myself that after I say how well it's worked, then we'll get here on the live video and start having problems. But I just think we need to be patient. Okay, it looks like the system configuration went good. Sometimes it pops up and kind of like it looks like it does an update of the system, like applying changes. Yeah, this is on the Jetpack 4.2 where I would find that it would hang sometime. But this one looks like it's moving right along, so that looks good. Almost there. And guys, up in the corner there, I'm superimposing that isn't on the Jetson Xavier. It's just I like to show you a live shot of what I'm doing as I'm putting this thing together. So I have that kind of picture-in-picture up there to help you out. All right. And here we go with some Linux type booting action happening. That awkward moment that we're hoping to see a happy little screen pop up here really quick. Okay, so now I am PJM and it wants my password. I thought I told it not to do that. Maybe I looked at it, but I didn't actually click it. Okay, again, I love that NVIDIA logo. Seems like an awkwardly long time that we are sitting here with the NVIDIA logo. There it is. Boom. Okay. Now here we've got to answer a few questions. I'm going to kill the shortcut window. I am going to say next. And then I'm not going to do the live patch. And I'm not going to send stuff in. Okay. And now we are done. Okay, guys. We are booted. All right. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and set up a few things. I am going to click on this wrench with this gear icon, and we're going to do a little bookkeeping here. I'm going to go ahead and look at the display and make sure that we've got a good display. 1920 by 1610, for me that is pretty good. I like to make my menus a little bit bigger because it makes it easier for you guys to see. So I'm going to put it on about 1.12, makes it a little easier for you to read. All right, and I hate the sticky edges. That's where it makes it full screen if you get close to a corner. I don't like that. So I'm going to do that. And then let's see, I'm going to apply. I'm going to keep that configuration. Go back to all settings, and I'm going to go to appearance up here. And I am going to say to fill to make sure that it goes right, like that. Okay, and then under behavior, I like for everything to be like, if I have a window, I want the menus for that window in the title bar of that window, not at the top. And so I say I want the menus in the Windows title bar, and I want them always displayed. I don't like them where they come and go. Okay, auto hide launcher, I don't want that, so that looks pretty good. Let's go back to all settings, and let's see, I'm going to look at this displays again. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger still and apply. Okay, that makes that a little bit easier to see over there. Some of these things I would set it differently if it was just me, but I know you guys are trying to watch everything, so I'm trying to make it easy for you guys to see. Okay, I'm going to go to power, and I'm going to say don't suspend because yeah, that looks good. I don't want it to go into power saving mode. And then on lock and the screensaver, I don't want it to put the screensaver on, so I'm going to put that on never, and lock is off. And again, you know, guys, I'm not giving you a security primer here. This is just me with my computer and the easiest way to make me make the videos. You've got to think of the security implications of anything that I am doing, and so I am not going to require password if the thing wakes up. So that is pretty good. Back to all settings. Let's see anything else here that we need to do. The mouse feels pretty good the way it is, so I'm going to close that. I like having a one-click machine, so I'm going to come over here to the file cabinet, and then I'm going to come under Files, and I'm going to come to Preferences, and then I'm going to go to Behavior, and then I'm going to say make it a single-click machine. All right. That all looks pretty good. Okay, we're going to open up a right mouse click on the background, right mouse click, open terminal. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to try to make this more readable for you. So under terminal, under edit, I'm going to edit the preferences. And then I think that you all would do better with a custom font. And I will click on the 12 there. And then I will bring this up to about 18 so you can see it a little better. And then these are kind of low contrast colors for me. So I'm going to go to colors, and I'm going to set the, let's see, there's some in here that actually are kind of nice. So I'm going to turn off use colors from system. And then I'm going to see if I can find a nice black on light yellow. I kind of like that. It's a little bit more high contrast. I am going to adjust the yellow by clicking background, and I would like that a little more orange. I kind of like it like a buff paper, so I'm going to copy this because I'll probably want to use that somewhere else. And I will select that, and then that bright green is not working for me, so I'm going to, the bright green there is not working for me, so I am going to come and I'm going to turn that to kind of like a deep kind of orangey red. Okay, that looks good. I think that is working very well. I'm just going to do a quick LS to see how things look. Light blue is not working for me there, so I will go to the light blue, which looks like right here. And I think I'm going to come over and get this red again as a starting point. Control C, cancel. You guys can play around and get the colors like what you like, but I want something that shows up good for you as I am trying to do these lessons. And that light blue is not going to cut it. Okay, so I'll come back there and I will just lighten that up a little bit from the earlier ones. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's see what this looks like if I just do an LS. Okay, that looks really good. I think you guys will be able to see that. Plenty big, plenty high contrast, and not garishly bright color. So I sort of like that. Okay, we're getting this thing configured. You guys can make the color the way you like it. Let's just try a couple of things here. One thing is I don't like every time I give a sudo command in the terminal, it wants me to put my password in. So we can fix that by saying sudo. Okay. Well, what we will do is we will say sudo sudo. Sudo V-I-S-U-D-O. Sudo sudo. It wants my password because I will be changing the system. And then what you want to do is you want to go all the way to the bottom. You have to use the arrow key. The mouse doesn't work with this program. Go all the way to the bottom. And now if I click, I'm going to go, if I click I for insert, it lets me insert something. So I'm going to hit enter to give me a blank line. And now I'm going to put a command in here where it won't ask me for my password anymore. Okay, it won't ask me for my password anymore. So I'm going to go PJM, that's me, and then all uppercase. You put ALL equals, open parentheses, ALL, close parentheses, space, NOPASSWD, okay, like you're saying no password, NOPASSWD colon ALL. All right, now we're done, so we're going to hit escape. Okay, now we're going to hit the colon, that's the dot over the dot, and then we're going to click W for write, and then, I'm sorry, lowercase w, W for write, and Q for quit. Okay, now it shouldn't ask for the password anymore, so we have that taken care of. There is a couple of other things I want to do real quick. There's a really cool program that we're going to need as we go on. It's called JTOP, and what JTOP allows you to do is it allows you to look at the performance of your GPUs versus your CPUs. So I'm going to go Jetson install JTOP like that. And we have Jetson stats at Pi, the second one. That looks like it. We'll try that. Should give us a very simple command to install okay, there it is. But that makes me realize we probably don't have pip installed yet, and that's going to be an important thing for us to do. So let's go ahead here and we're going to do a sudo, let's see, let me just see if I do a apt-get install python 3-pip. Let's see if that works. It might want a sudo, but I'm going to try it without the sudo. apt-get install python 3-pip. Does not like that, so I will try it with the sudo. Okay, it looks like it's going to put our pip in for us. Yes, we want. This was something you're going to need anyway, and I really don't know why they don't put pip on the Jetpack. Just they should have that as one of the default installs. It's going along pretty quickly. And then we are going to need this command, sudo -h pip install -u Jetson stats. We might have to put pip 3 because we were installing pip 3 there, so we'll try that. I'll copy. Wow, the pip is taking a little while here to install. I think I got kind of a little bit of a slow internet. That Jetpack 4.4 took a long time for me to install. It was a slow one today. Okay. We'll just sit and chat. I don't want to turn this off and then turn it back on. So we will just sit and chat. We are almost there. Okay, unpacking. This should go pretty quickly. Nice thing is we're not seeing any errors. It's going along pretty cleanly there. And probably what we're going to do next week, this is getting to be a little long. Next week we're going to install a good IDE and integrated development environment to do our programming in, but we won't do that today. We'll do that next week. So okay, we got that, and so now we should be able to paste that JTOP command. And so you right mouse click and paste to paste. And then probably I think that we need to use pip3 since that's just what we installed. We will try that and see if it likes that. I think this is going to work. And let's see. So what we'll do next week is install Visual Studio Code, because that is a great development environment, and we're going to need that as we move forward in these lessons. Okay, that looks like it's being happy over there. Okay, that looks good. Now let's turn on JTOP. It's probably going to, I probably wanted sudo JTOP. I'm going to control C out of that and say sudo JTOP so we don't get all those warnings and everything. And this is really cool. So you can see right now that we are running on 2 of the 6 CPU. This baby has 6 CPUs and we are running with only 2 of them on. So I need you to come over here, and if you look at this mode 10 watt 2 core, we're going to come and we're going to say power mode, and we are going to open this thing full blast and go to 15 watt 6 core. Okay. And then when we do that, you can see that we have all of our cores on. And these are the CPUs 1 through 6. You can see your memory used, your swap space use. And then here we have the GPU. And as we're just sitting here with a graphical interface, you can imagine that we're really not using those GPUs. Okay, let's try just a couple of more things real quickly here. I'm going to go back and open a terminal. And then if you want to check your webcam, if you have your webcam plugged in, the way you check it is just type in cheese and it should pop up. Okay, boom, webcam. All right. So you see we got a little webcam that pops up there. So the webcam is talking to the system. That is encouraging. That's good. Now, how about you guys that have the Raspberry Pi camera? Well, that is not going to run on cheese. And so we're going to have to give it a very, very simple GStreamer command. And this is the simplest GStreamer command that I could think of. And that is GST launch launch dash, what do we want to run? 1.0, and then we want NV is in NVIDIA, NV Argus, ARGUS, NV Argus, and then Argus Camera SRC. So NV Argus Camera SRC. And then we're going to pipe that. We're going to put the exclamation point, and then we're going to go to NVOVERLAY. So NV like NVIDIA, overlay, and then sync, S-I-N-K. So what this is going to do is it's going to take a signal from the camera, which is going to be the Raspberry Pi camera, and it's going to send it to just overlay it over the screen. And then all you do is don't click anything, and after you start it, don't click anything, but just click enter. Boom. All right, there it is. You see? Great big larger than life. Control C, boom, we stopped out of it. Okay, now if we wanted to do like a nice video in a nice window and kind of like everything nice, you would need a lot bigger G-stringer command, which I don't want to really do today because this has been a pretty long lesson, but we got our gear put together. We got our SD card flash for Jetpack 4.4. We did our first boot, and we got things configured pretty nicely to move forward. So next week, what we need to do is we need to install an integrated development environment, something that we can program in. And so I'll show you how to install Visual Studio Code next week on the Jetson Xavier NX. Okay, guys, let's get this thing configured right, and let's not go off in a lot of crazy directions until we have a good, stable platform to build on. And then we will, in fact, as advertised, begin to learn about machine learning, deep neural networks, and deep learning. So those are the things that we'll be covering in this series of lessons. Hope you guys will tune in next week, and hope you will stick with this series. This is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.